Hello?
Connor, you gotta help me. I'm losing it, man. This book is driving me crazy. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know who I am.
Mike, calm down. What happened?
I considered ranking Shadow Moon lower than Bob Honey.
Great Scott! Where are you?
I don't know. I just wandered the whole night. I was trying to cast minor glamours, but then I realized they're not a thing.
Okay, well, just tell me what you see around you.
I see my office and my desk, and I see a framed picture of Nick Nolte.
Okay. You're in your office. Stay there. I will see you soon.
Help!
Vermont taxi! Airport, and step on it.
Airport? Well, let's see. No. Can't get there from here.
I'm not a tourist. Just take me to the airport.
Oh, right. Got it. Okay.
Minneapolis taxi! Take me to Mike Nelson.
You got it, friend. Here you go, pal. 334 Mike Nelson's place.
Mike, open up. Open up. All right. I'm coming in. Mike, don't do it. Don't rank Shadow Moon lower than Bob Honey.
Oh, hey, Connor. I had my headphones on. What's up?
You called. Despondent. Bob Honey was mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Tuesdays I have a paint and sip class. Never answer calls from me after 9:30.
Okay, well, I came all the way from Vermont. Can I crash on the couch over?
No, sorry. If you could just kind of prop the broken door back up into place as you leave.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Hey, call me. We should record an episode. Oh, yes, indeed. Hello, everyone. This is 372 pages we'll never get back. I am Michael J. Nelson. Connor Listoka and I from rifftracks.com. We get together. We do this reading group over books we are probably not going to like. And boy, howdy, Connor, did we hit one this time.
Yeah. Have we? I had to make my way back to Vermont after that whole incident. Thank you. I could not afford a plane ticket, so I hitchhiked.
Okay.
Did some things I'm not proud of, but
but you're home. Everything turned out okay, so it's good, right?
I mean, I alluded to some dark times getting there that you do not seem to care too much about.
Sure, but you're home and all is good, and so
I mean, I've started therapy, so yeah. I mean, all will be good in a they say a couple of years, perhaps, but
all is good. All right. Well, that out of the way. We're doing Shadow Moon, a book written largely and almost totally by George Lucas.
Yeah.
I don't know, and some other guy. Chris Claremont. Mm-hmm. I keep forgetting his name.
Yeah, and it seems that I don't know. There's a lot of portmanteaus that are being tossed around, but it seems like a lot of people have arrived on Clucas as their preferred method of describing him.
Clucas. Okay.
Yeah. it's got the same revolting sort of like tone as Shatlard. So as long as you can combine those two, it sounds like something you cough up or something, or like a cloaca on a bird or reptile.
Yeah.
It's the substance that oozes out of a cloaca after they lay a particularly large egg.
That seems to fit. To fit. We have all our departments this episode.
Boy, do we! Yep, we got some confusing fanfic to trick you, and we've got emails from some very frustrated readers, and we have just some of the dumbest sentences that we've ever heard. So, just great job all around from everyone who is. Some of them are just as frustrated as we are, but they keep on trucking.
I'm just again. I think I mentioned it last time that I was, in some level pleased that there were people who were frustrated with it because you begin to question your own sanity.
Well, yeah, you don't want to. I always say, like, I am not a dumb person, and you feel, you say it enough, you start to feel arrogant about saying it. But it's good to know that there are other people out here who are like, no, listen, like I've read books that are clearly way more highbrow and complicated than this has any right to be, and yet this is the one that I find myself being like, I need a professor to walk me through this one.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it in terms of, I think we talked about on Calibrate Our Tastes once or twice that some of the big ones, like, have you ever read what is it, Gravity's Rainbow? Or
I gave it about 5% and then was like,
yeah. At least if you did struggle through one of those, you'd be like, well, look, at the end of this, I can tell people, hey, oh yeah, I read that. It's a tough go, but But this one, you're like, why is this such a tough go when there's no reward for it?
Although, I will say this, that last weekend, had some people over, and one of them was just checking out my new monitor rig. I got a new monitor rig at my desk, and I had the book there, and he was just like, is this the book sequel to Willow? And he had read it, 15 or 20 years ago.
What?
He is the guy that has DM'd the one or two Dungeons and Dragons sessions that I've participated in the past couple years. So
wow.
It's not like it was the supermodel I invited over who was spotting that and being like, oh wow, I read that in between bikini shoots in the Maldives. So
I brought this up to you offline. I might as well bring it up now, and we'll just listen to a little of this. This reminds me, this whole book and experience reminds me of the song poems that we were passing around, and this will be explained to all of you out there. Song poem is a term used to describe this scam that went on for a long time. It probably still goes on for as far as I know, but in this sense of cutting records for people who would send in lyrics for a fee, saying, hey, you've got talent as a songwriter, send us, $100 or whatever, and we'll turn your song into a hit. And then they would just mail back a 75 or whatever or what is that? What's the small?
Yeah, the RPM at 33. But yeah, it wasn't a scam. They would actually do it, right?
Yeah, they would actually do it. Except the scam was they weren't bringing them anywhere else. They weren't.
Right. Oh yeah,
it was
right.
like, we're going to bring these into the music executive's office, and so it was just basically people insanely ranting on paper and handing it in, and then they would turn it into. So it has all the makings of a song. It seems like it has music, and there's a guy singing.
There's harmonies,
a guy who has talent, and there's session musicians. But it's just gibberish, and that's kind of what this book is. It is bound up in papers. It has been printed at a print shop. It is professional, and you read it, and the words are in English. But what the hell is going on? And so that's a song poem. And here I brought a little. I got a little sample of one here. I think I can just pull it up right now.
Nice.
Oral people singing in the background. There's harmonizing. There's a little guitar lick going through the whole thing, and it's just words. And that's what this.
It's one step towards coherence from ipsum lorem text. Whole placeholder text, but. Yeah.
So all that being said, hey, let's
dive in. Let's talk about this book for an hour or two. I mean, we left off, in media res last time, where Thorn, who is Willow, has traveled to, I think, Angwin, the high, citadel, like the capital of the whole realm, where there's essentially like a bat mitzvah that's going to happen for Elora Danem, who is the baby from Willow. It's she's not Jewish, but they're having the ceremony that happens when you turn 13 and she becomes, I don't know, something is going to happen.
Yeah, she's they refer to it as a sacrament or something. So I don't, so apparently they're just, I guess, Catholic Church or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. But there was a lot of these in this most recent 50 pages, but the paragraphs that take up pretty much a page of book text that any given editor worth his salt would have just put a whole red X through, because they add nothing and they're just pure descriptions of either geography or a feast or a pile of clothes or something. But instead we just get treated to all of them in the book. And this first one was about geography. So if you don't mind, I'll I'll start reading it, and you could tell me maybe where, if you were the editor, where you would have pulled the plug.
Okay.
This keep was easily the oldest structure on the palace grounds, standing alone on a neighboring hill, separated from the main buildings by a clutch of horse barns and carriage houses, with a dramatically commanding view of the city and bay beyond, solidly constructed that its walls appeared to be a natural extension of the hill itself. The foreslope was steep and high, enough to exhaust any force making a frontal assault. The backside of the hill was much gentler and led originally to a smaller summit beyond.
Right into the...
So you've thrown it in the trash, and there was, let me just check, there was still 113 words left in that paragraph. So talking about hollows between knolls, artificial rises, but yeah, I think once you hit foreslope in any description, you've gone too far. You're in too deep.
This has come up before, and I have faulted the master Tolkien himself with it. Descriptions of landscape, I'm out. I can't do it. I can't do it. It just doesn't. Those are, at most you give someone a sketch, right? You give them just the tiniest little sketch. Just fill it in with your head. There's nothing interesting about describing landscape.
No. Yeah.
We're not doing historical battle recreations here, so we need to know where the 4th Division is coming up through, what kind of cover they have, and is there, defilade on there. We don't need to know that. Yeah. I assume we don't need to know that.
No, I don't think we do. I mean, this is in the middle of him, sort of escaping a dungeon, so he's taking time to, size up foreslopes and hollows between knolls. But yeah, this is just the sort of thing that you imagine in an X-Men comic would just be a full-page splash drawing of this, regal fortress or whatever. So I guess that's what he's going for as a comic book author.
Yes, and so he escapes from the dungeon where he had I don't know. He didn't talk to the demon yet, though he certainly will. Yeah. My God, we'll get to that.
Yeah, he escaped it, I guess, with the help of his cloak, which we'll get into that powers as well. But he sort of bursts out into a bustling area and immediately finds himself smack in the middle of slapstick plot device 38B. Where a character is someplace they don't belong, and so they're nervous that they're going to get found out, but then someone's like, "Hey, you!" And they're like, "What?" And they're like, "You got to bring this thing here! Quit lollygagging!" He just is mistaken for a worker immediately.
Yes, I thought it was lazy writing, even for a sitcom, even for young Sheldon or something. But yeah, it's like a Hope and Crosby road movie or something like
yes.
Just, keep it wrapped around you and we won't get noticed. Hey, you two, over this way. Immediately. But that presents a sound challenge for us right away from this guy who finds him. Yes, the man cried in exasperation. You, short fella, here now, hop to it. He finished with a roar when Thorn didn't cross the courtyard with sufficient alacrity. So I'd like you to make that the roar when someone doesn't cross a courtyard with alacrity. What's your roar for that?
All right. Well, here he goes. He's carrying the tray. He's going to be halfway across the courtyard. But, oh, my God, this has taken 15 seconds. This is not alacritive at all!
There was asperity in that anger at alacrity.
Yeah, you get your asperity and my alacrity, things are going to happen. He also uttered one of my favorite things anyone has so far. He said, "God's truth."
Yes.
So that's a good sign that we're in fantasy times. We're getting words like that tossed around.
Was that? I didn't look it up. Was that a spelling thing? Was that a common spelling of God's truth, or is it just? I don't know. I know. Let's not spend any more time. And then you talk about the description of the sweep
landscape
of the land.
Yeah.
I'd like to zero in a little bit, and you get out your pencil here as editor. And this is a description of a loading dock. How much do you need of a description of a loading dock? Let me start.
I've seen plenty, just outside the grocery store.
The basic lines of the overall design had been kept through this wing as well, but they were far more simplified and functional.
Well, sure, it's a
this
loading
was the
dock.
section of the palace that none but staff were ever meant to see.
Again, a loading
It had
dock.
to work because they had to. Adornments only got in the way.
I have never
the
seen an
windows weren't
loading
as
dock.
big. I just meant to convey to the reader that the windows were smaller there. I hope you got that. Nor were there as many. There weren't as many windows. I think that's an important thing. The mason stones were square and solid, lacking any of the gingerbread carvings that decorated the public facade.
You've gone off the rails.
So as you can
Gingerbread
see, I'm
carvings.
really making a distinction between how a loading dock would look. A triple set of doors led off the loading dock, not so tall as the main entrance.
That is where I wrote blah, blah, blah in my notes. Yeah.
Yep, full paragraph and a half of a loading dock description.
So gingerbread carvings? He's saying it's like a Baba Yaga's hut in the middle of the woods, or like that just came out of nowhere. Just sort of decorative mason work,
Well, he's going to the worker area so he's like it's a. Just think of any movie, Princess Bride. He's in the Princess Bride courtyard, and then he goes around back. And we know that that's
right.
where the crap gets loaded in. Why do you need a description of that?
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a fantasy movie. That's how it works in the steerage compartment in Titanic. It's how any place of business works. If you go behind the Disney World and go back to where the characters are, taking off their helmets and resting all sweaty. Like we understand this. It's a well-trod concept.
Yes. But then he goes into more detail about how they're prepping for this big event and all the people that are coming. And it says, in appearance, the scene most resembled the ultimate moving day. Only not everything was packed, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, do people in Willow time have moving days? Like,
sure.
You buy mutton and turkey legs for your friends and hope they'll show up when you get your new job in East Angwin or whatever.
Right. When people are
hey
like,
guys, really appreciate this. I know we're a little too old for this, but
yeah, people are like, God, we're 16. We're well past middle age in this world. He's got to be hiring movers for us at this age, man.
Yeah, it's like a farthing to get 3 guys to come over and move your crap. Why are we doing this?
I mean, slaves. Slaves probably exist in this world. So get some slaves and have them, carry your mattress down the... the ultimate moving day struck me as well, because this is like the... a kitchen where they're sort of prepping for something that isn't moving, but we don't really understand what they're doing, because one of the workers says something like epoxy curse, and then someone's like, someone upbraids him for that, and so he's like, oh, okay, well, for mercy's sake. And the person says like, hey, pal, words have meaning, curses have power, especially when there are those present who might on a whim choose to indulge them. I beg you, these next few days, with all the 13 realms here present, be careful in what you say and what you think. So just, more backstory, more things happening that we are not filled in on to further confuse us.
I did not understand that at all. Is he kind of, because which is the curse?
Epoxy curse. And so he's starting to say that, and it's like, it's sort of like if there's a monkey's paw or a genie granting wishes that might actually fulfill your curses or whatever.
Yeah, okay. Well, I didn't get that either, but I refuse to reread stuff at this point. Fool me once,
So if you liked the description of the hillside, and if you loved the description of the loading dock, well, here's an amazing one, because he threads his way, Thorne does, through one of the right-hand arches to find himself in a kitchen the likes of which he'd never seen. So I thought I would just wanted to challenge you. So what might be in a kitchen that you would describe thusly as, this was, guys, you're not going to believe it, this kitchen was unlike anything I've ever seen?
I would say that there would be tables. There would be pipes bringing water to the hot and cold. There would be pots.
You're describing.
Pans.
I mean, all I have this, and all of these are in my kitchen, and frankly, in every kitchen I've ever been to.
There'd be cutlery. There'd be people working on food. Is that? But this kitchen is.
I was
different
thinking
from
like
that.
a dolphin pool or a some sort of like a ball pit from Chuck E. Cheese, something like that. But no, you've precisely described the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Thorne has wandered into. Pipes ran down the walls from the ceiling to provide both hot and cold running water. Racks for pots and pans, others for cutlery, others still for the making of the feast. In one corner, a cow was being butchered, while another one, children barely in their teens were plucking all manner of fowl. And then beyond another portal was another chamber, impressive in its own right, devoted to nothing but the cleaning of all the implements. So there you have it. That's just...
Well, hang on. You didn't get to the thing, a kitchen, which he had never seen before, because there were two scullery lads rushing. Most kitchens, I mean, what's you topping out at one scullery lad?
Yes,
this one's just back to the rafters.
Unless it's someone who's really doing it for show, someone who's like hosting the office Christmas party, but they're sort of like just really rubbing it into everyone else that they can afford to.
Like performative scullery lads.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They
that one doesn't. I pay him to just sit there. That's how. That's how unlike any kitchen you've ever seen my kitchen is.
So yeah, we get more of those descriptions, and he gets into the ultimate thing, I think, for fantasy authors is the description of the actual feast itself.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this in everything, and I even posted a meme this week that I try to be funny online and stuff, and nothing I have ever written in the past 6 months traveled as well as this meme. It was just the guy looking back at a fantasy author, looking back at descriptions of a feast and moving the plot along. So this was a very George R. R. Martin-y. One handled soup, another fowl. 3 varieties of meat, parentheses, domestic red meat, wild red meat, domestic white, 2 of fish, parentheses, fin and shell, salads and vegetables in abundance, plus all the attendant sauces and dressings and garnishes. The air was rich with heady scents of basil and coriander, pepper and hickory, cinnamon and chocolate. Again, it goes on for 150 more words.
My God. But this is something while he's doing that, he focuses on that eventually, but he stops to watch this. Thorne felt as though he was watching some tremendous human machines. There was a purpose to every action, whether it was turning a haunch of meat on a rotisserie spit or checking off the raw ingredients for tonight's feast of welcome. So he stopped to watch a man looking at a piece of paper and doing exactly that. And okay, we got the mutton. We got the chicken is on there. And he's just like, wonder of wonders.
Hey, Frank, are you seeing the domestic white meat over there?
My God, what kind of... It's like he's, being cleaned up by the people in Oz or something. Check a meat here, check a meat there.
Oh. So, yeah, that's him, going from being worried that he's going to be, caught and thrown back into dungeon to watching a guy, take stock of the dry goods. Fantasy.
Yes.
But
eventually we get to... the contrived moment becomes even more contrived than you could possibly hope when he lays his eyes upon this person, which, by the way, hair description, drink, an even more formidable woman, starched skirts hardly wilted in the ferocious heat, sleeves properly buttoned. That's good. I don't like to see women with improperly buttoned sleeves. Bodice laced, hair wound into a crown as respectable as it was convenient.
Oh, all right.
So he knew that her hair was convenient for her.
I'm glad he also approves, because Willow has proven and will prove to be, quite the critic of our.
Yeah, he's got quite a discerning eye where the ladies are concerned.
But yeah, so that is this the woman who gives him an assignment?
Yeah, pinches his ear and does the Gandalf to the hobbits.
Right.
Like. But you ruined my fireworks. Now it's time to do dishes, kind of a thing.
But so we thought that he was sort of donning a Harry Potter invisibility cloak. But it appears that this cloak is more like a something like. Is there a thing of convenience? Is that a thing? Like I don't know. But she says, reasonably dressed, reasonably clean. The cook noted, and Thorne wondered what vision his cloak was presenting to her. Ideally, what she wanted most to see. And she says, he'll do. And then so like I guess it just is a cloak that is just like giving you the what is ever going to befit you the most in the situation, which I feel like I've heard of. I can't put my finger on it, but it's in some common fantasy or sci-fi book because it's one that I've read, so it's not too obscure.
Well, but I thought earlier he said the description of it was that it was a passive charm or something. And I took that to mean that the cloak is simply, it's kind of dark and he's wearing a dark cloak. He's got his camo on is what I thought. But I guess it seems much more powerful, projecting out what you expect to see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's minor glamour. You were just being coy. This is a major glamour.
Well, in my world, it's a minor glamour.
Oh,
right?
All right. It's getting irritating. Everything you do is a minor glamour until it works wonders, and then we're all like, okay, when's he going to whip out the major glamour if this is what he considers a minor glamour?
Which, by the way, those things stack up in this section to a point where there's no way you can keep the book in your hand and read what we read. It has got to be flying across the room multiple times.
Right. Camel case, two words combined into one that aren't capitalized. It's nothing is consistent and it's all maddening.
It is infuriating.
But so she spots him and they do, I think it was, this is slapstick routine 38-F, I think, where, someone is being like, hey, you get out of here. And then the woman says, he'll do. And they both like simultaneously like look at each other, then look at her and go, beg pardon? They say it together. So they're escalating this slapstick routine that much more. And it's not yet peaked, believe it or not.
Yeah, it was the sitcom thing of where were you two? Just we were at the store. I mean, we were at the bank that's also a store. And
yeah. So yeah, it goes from, I think in the last chapter they had just like witnessed the like freed soul or like the purgatoried soul of a woman who had been pushed down the stairs and cracked her head open. So yeah, it's whiplashing once again.
But as always, kind of hard to tell when it's maybe hard to tell for me because your mood just isn't ready for the slapstick, and so you're just like, wait, what is happening? Because it's not. I mean, it certainly doesn't make you smile or even push a little air through your nose, does it? I mean,
no. It's all it does is just call back the tone of the movie, which was this pretty much 70% of the time.
Yeah. So we also get hair description before he goes up for his task. Well, why don't you describe what his task is?
So he's been given essentially like a room service cart that he's going to bring up to the Sacred Princess Elora Danan. Because I guess we get filled in on this later, but none of the staff, nobody who has ever met her before wants to deal with her.
Right, and it's also apparently there's no Secret Service at the castle. Like, wait, who are you sending into the room of the princess about who we're inviting thousands from the 13 kingdoms?
Right.
You're sending the guy who just walked into the thing. Okay.
Right. A girl
Sounds
who,
good.
from her birth, people were trying to kill to prevent some sort of prophecy from occurring.
Right. But he gets ready for this, and there's hair talk, so drink. He fished in his pouch for a comb, took a few swipes through his tangled russet hair to restore some semblance of order, then quickly gathered it together behind his head in a thick plate. So I can't picture that, but hair aficionados, there's a little something for you.
Thick plate of willow hair. Yeah, but all is not good as he's trucking this room service up to her. He gets the first settled down we've had in a while, but says Thorn was about to answer when he was slapped hard by a wave of bitter chill. Not the cold of wind and weather. Years walking the wild lands, plus the judicious application of his powers, had inured him to those extremes. This struck beyond the flesh, a breath of foulness to coat his soul in rime ice. Settle down. He was just doing double takes, and he's about to have a bowl of soup on his head. So,
right.
His soul is not coated in rime ice at the moment.
Also, his powers had inured him to those extremes. Let's run him down. Which of the powers?
I don't know. I mean, he's pretty much
insight, outsight, side swipe. I don't. So he's just applying these, and then he's getting used to it from the fact that he's protecting himself? In other words, I don't think if you wear a parka and go out in the cold, you're necessarily being inured to the cold.
No.
You're not getting used to it. You're just warm.
It's just like the power of whatever leads him to be chopping wood, and, that's not a name I've heard in a long time. It's that sort of just, hardened to the elements type of thing.
Right. So he rolls the cart up there. The brownies are with him, cracking wise, and we get this curious thing. She's got a water glass to the princess. He took a hearty swallow, passed it on to the brownies, then spoke aloud with what all three of them knew. So he passes a water glass. I mean, they're smaller than a water glass, right?
Yeah, they could fit in. One of them fell into a glass of beer in the movie.
Yeah, and their knives, which they wield later, I finally get a description of them. They're smaller than the thorn of a rose. So, just project that out to a human and you're handing him a big goblet of water.
Yeah, you're putting your head into one of those like water towers you see on the outskirts of a town.
Yeah, I don't even think an ant could pull that off, right? I mean,
yeah, they just maybe they just pick up the individual, like they don't break the surface tension on a ball of water so they can hold it and sort of lick it. Right. Is this the same? Is this when he takes the sip? Is this the same liquid? It says he returned his knife to its sheath, then cast propriety to the winds and poured a goblet of water from Alora's decanter. It was flavored with lemon, which managed to make it taste both tart and sweet. Which I assume they put in as a refresher for anyone who hasn't had a lemon in a recent time, just to.
Well, those notoriously sweet lemons he's getting. I don't know. I just did the Miracle Berry, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and a friend of mine who did it with me, we were at a brew pub, and so he snuck in all the accoutrements. Like I just had a bag full of sliced limes and lemons. And it didn't work as well on him, but the limes and lemons, he was gobbling them up, going, this is the most delicious thing I've ever tasted.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's like sour candy.
And that's what this put me in mind of, yeah. Sweet and tart, yeah. So he probably popped a Miracle Berry, just forgot to do that. He has that power to turn on Miracle Berry on his tongue at any time.
Yeah, he has it's camel-cased Miracle Berry, all one word.
Yeah. Mirbear Pow. Yeah. All right, so he brings it in there, but he's before that he's worried about the night herons.
Yeah, that was what sort of made that was what the breath of foulness to coat his soul in rime ice was caused by.
Right. But I didn't even understand where they were, what they were doing. Like, how is he's just sensing them, I guess?
Yeah, I guess that was just sort of the shudder, and he goes on to encounter them later in the chapter, but I guess they just are going up in an elevator, which exists in the Willowverse, and then all of a sudden they just get a whiff of them, I guess.
Okay.
A visceral whiff.
The later encounter with the night herons, by the way, only further confused me. It's
extremely.
I didn't understand it anymore once he actually met one, so I don't know. But we'll get to that.
But yeah, they go up to they're about to enter the room, I think, and Frangine is quipping, as is his wont. But Thorn Thorn sort of briefly loses it, but it says, "She's not 13 yet, Frangine," Thorn snapped, "and considering what happened to her first home, it's not as if she had much choice in the matter." Or, he couldn't help adding, with the sudden, bitter, wholly unexpected rage that shook him to his core, friends to stand by her during those awful times. So you'd read that, and that was a settle the hell down moment for me, because they were just doing, like you said, road to the whatever Bing and Crosby slapstick, and now he's being shook with an unexpected rage that shakes him to his core. Like, settle down.
It's shooken you up so much that you referred to the legendary comedy team as Bing and Crosby.
I mean, I'm looking right at the framed one sheet I keep on my wall. I watch those with my parents all the time, so you can understand.
You used to drive to Glendale to go to the restaurant where the 97-year-old Bob Hope would go to eat lunch.
Just to hope to get a glimpse of him, yeah. It is Bing Crosby, right? That's
Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, yes.
All right.
Not Bing and Crosby.
Damn it. There's now this is it's going to be a thing now. People are going to be like saying that to me 6 months from now.
It's Bing Ogden. And,
Crap.
sorry.
So yeah, night herons.
He mentions it himself, this litany. He's talking about all the things they've met. Death dogs, mason, night herons. My phone is going in the background. Ignore that.
Okay.
I'm getting
robocalls from
I'm getting so many
Grand
robocalls.
Magus.
Is that happening to people out there? Is it the Christmas season or something? I don't know. Anyway, death
You will
dogs,
be robocalled tonight by 3 spirits.
Yes. Mason night herons. He found to his surprise that he didn't include the reputed demon of the dungeon. So those are all just the caps thing that he's doing, and that that's just so irritating.
Yeah, I thought that this sentence, if we had been shown this sentence before we picked this book, how quickly would we have said absolutely not? Herons were for the air what death dogs were on foot. It's like, oh God.
I don't know whether he was thinking of merchandising, and maybe Lucas was just like, hey, the more the better.
Yeah, I think
we can turn anything into into merch. So I was like, aren't death dogs enough? We're terrified of those. Like, no, stack them up.
Yeah, I think this was just like, we'll just we'll toss the same rugs we put on the Australian shepherds as we did in Willow. We'll just toss that on a parrot, and that'll be a night heron for this movie. Yeah. But we got a good description of them. We got a good description sort of what the night herons are all about. And at least this one I could understand. It was dumb enough that I could understand it. Hounds serve because they were born to the role. Herons because they chose it. It amused them. When they killed, it was as much for pleasure as need. And while they consumed the flesh of their victims, often while the prey still lived, it was the sheer terror of those moments, the agony both physical and emotional, that gave them true sustenance. So they essentially are just like feeding off of suffering, which again is not a new concept. But so I was reading this and I was like, so what if they were like going to be eating a guy who was sort of down with it? Like what if they were and so what sprung to mind, of course, was that German guy from like a decade ago who put an ad on Craigslist.
Yeah. I used to have his name memorized, but it's escaped me now. It's something my wife told me I shouldn't use brain space to.
Yeah, it's a good idea. So I was like, what if I sort of lapsed into an '80s stand-up comedian. I was like, what if? Hear me out on this. What if the night herons were eating the German Craigslist cannibal from the early aughts? And believe it or not the first person to wonder about this.
Really?
Yeah, no, I checked it out. It's one of those things where you get like 2 Google results, but one of them was for a dark web reenactor who had wondered this exact thing.
No.
Yeah, they were out there. I mean, the dark web's a weird spot. If you want to find someone to eat you or to be eaten, that's probably where you'd go to do it. So it's not surprising that there's sort of, interpretive German Craigslist cannibal fanfic on the dark web.
Sure, yeah. I wondered, though, after you had given the premise and the style of the 80s comedian, did you turn away from the audience, run a comb through your hair, and then I think it would go a little something like this.
Yeah, I combed my hair into what was it, a tack? Yeah. Back into a plate, a tidy plate.
A thick plate.
Yeah. So yeah, if you ever wondered about that, I think it might go a little something like this.
And this is where our evening takes a turn, for I'm afraid when I invited you over for dinner, it will be you for the main course.
Oh, nein, whatever shall I do?
I think I'll start by nibbling on your toe. This little piggy was delicious.
Oh, Achtung, mein favorite piggy.
Didn't really fill me up, but there wasn't too much meat on that toe. I'm sure your thighs will prove much more delectable.
How is it tasting, Frau Heron?
You know what? I have eaten a lot of your flesh here, but I'm not feeling sated at all. Say, you're terrified, right? In agony, both physical and emotional?
Oh, yeah, such agony. So scared of the big bad night heron.
Well, now I'm starting to pick up on some sarcasm here.
Oh, wow. Didn't you access the inside to pick up on that?
Well, what the hell, man? I'm consuming your flesh while you're still alive, but I'm not getting any sustenance from it.
Well, certainly do not feed me tender morsel of mine own body. There is nothing I fear more.
Is that so? Well, why don't you eat your right nipple?
No. Yeah. Oh, that is good.
Oh, man, are they that tasty?
Delectable.
Yeah, damn it, there's only one left. Damn it, I know this should taste good, but it's just like ashes in my mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on, it wasn't that big. You can't still be eating. Wait a second. Is this giving you a sexual thrill?
Oh, you honestly hadn't noticed? I mean, it's right there, sticking up. And
well, we're gonna have to get rid of that. Yeah, anything?
I'm so happy.
Oh, damn it!
But it might scar me if you fry it up in the white wine and garlic pan sauce.
Well, okay, but you'd better not get a sexual thrill from this.
How would you be able to tell? All right, stop where you are, police.
Hey, this guy was consenting the whole time.
No. We're just here to put an end to this sketch. We're terrified where it will go, and frankly, it's based on a pretty obscure reference. Can I still eat in mine own wine? I said we're pulling the plug. Oh yeah, there you have it. That's what a night heron trying to eat the German cannibal Arwen Maywis. I think that's his name. That's what that would have sounded like.
Right. I was surprised to learn that wasn't Norm Macdonald doing that. He's very fond of who was the serial killer who wrote notes from prison. I think he's done that gag about 1 million times of describing his horrible acts of fiendish, grotesque, awful. I mean, this guy is a real jerk, is the punchline to that. Surprised it wasn't him. It seems like that would be a fascination of his.
Absolutely, yeah. It's too bad he wasn't around for Update to do that. But yeah, I actually thought that was the guy he used to talk about when I was looking the German cannibal up.
So, all right, continuing on with this crap.
Yeah. The sort of just gets off the elevator and he's delivering the room service to her, but it says the lift stopped, a door was opened, the view was intended to take the breath away. He'd seen better. So once again, Thorne is just sort of all about the negging, just like the Princess of the Thunder Riders.
Yeah, but he's impressed by regular old kitchens.
Yes,
but, this nothing for him.
Yeah, really. All right, man. Like maybe we've seen better hairs combed back into plates. Like, well, all right. Like you're no prize yourself.
So we get a description of Alora here, and there's one to follow too. And I just wonder if the baby who now grown up and reads that description is like, hey man, is that what are you thinking of me as you're extending the fiction here? She smelled like a baby, mostly sour milk. He describes her, and anyway, she immediately screams at them. She sneers, and you call this a decent meal, and she throws the food at them.
Yes, that's how the chapter ends.
That's chapter end. And I'm like, all right, finally, this chapter comes to an end. Let's read on to chapter 5, where they're not in or we jump to some other scene, and we get some new exciting storyline.
Yeah, they're having walnuts and brandy to be like, that was a funny misunderstanding, Willow. It's so great to see you.
Yes, I'm sure glad you cast that spell and got us out of there before the bowl hit us in the skull. No. Chapter 5 begins, a very, very long chapter. There's no reason to have a chapter.
Oh yeah, whatsoever. Considering what he did, not put chapters in for, traveling across countrysides or all that nonsense. But yeah, this one just is sort of a convenient breakup before Wacky Town continues.
Yeah, so should we march on to chapter 5 then?
Well, I think first we should.
Well, my talents are, they're going down. I I threw a pretty good, a calming throw the first time, but this last passive charm that I did not work out well. I got just over 60%, about 60%. So
yeah, you need to cast the discernment of text charm or some garbage. I don't know. I think that the guy who sings that song is coming to Burlington in a couple months. I'm going to go to the concert and just yell, "Do the real or fanfic song." But yeah, you guys know the drill. These are going to be 5 either passages from later in Shadow Moon, actual text written by Clucas, or they're going to be fanfic submitted by you, the loyal listeners. And Mike's going to try to guess which are which.
I'm all set.
Let's go. Number 1. Hands, not hands, slipped again, and Thorn hesitated, torn between 2 demands of equal weight. Alora's danger on the one hand, the demon's child on the other. The doors begin to open. He knows as certainly as he knows anything that Alora is doomed if she steps inside that chamber. He knew as well that the demon's child was doomed if he didn't act at once to complete the spell of resurrection. Silence within the hall, a greater silence on the streets without, as the entire populace seems to hold its collective breath.
Well, that one is on point. Nothing out of place. It is though that person ran a comb through their plate and got it all. I sense that it's fanfic because it's on point. But that's an absurd thing to say. But there it is. I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. Number 2. "My wife needs you, wizard," he said in a flat-toned demand that allowed for but a single outcome. Thorn didn't respond quickly enough to suit the mate, so Shando scooped him up by the harness and deposited him beside the locker where Morag lay. The Nelwyn collapsed where he was dropped, which brought Shando a glare of preternatural rage from Corey, so intense it made the man back off a step and once more take his post at the wheel. "We're a pair, Peck," the shipmaster offered with wry humor in a voice as deathly as her appearance. "We really must stop meeting like this," was his retort.
Oh, I like how the name's being shoveled at you.
Shando, Morag, Corey, Khory.
I'm going to say that that's real.
Okay. Number 3. Thorn nodded, extended his hands. "Close your eyes," he told the Pathfinder, and touched both lids with 4 and middle fingers, casting a spark of power across the way to his companion. "Mage sight," he told the Garen, which they moved apart again. "Better vision than a cat, in anything less than absolute dark. More suitable than a torch. I'll offer the same to the rest, so we'll each be on equal footing." "Damn," Garen responded in wonderment. "Damn! When this fades, it's be like going mostly blind. I'm sorry for that because it will fade. The charge is temporary, and there's a limit to how often I can re-energize it. The body has a finite capacity. It can only be taxed so hard before it begins to break down."
I think that's fanfic, but again, throwing a dart.
Number 4. "Rule?" Thorn called out, only to see him prone on the ground below, so he rushed to his side. Summoning all the energies within him and surrounding him, Thorn used his magic more purposely and intensely than he ever did before, for it would make no sense that his dear companion would fall from the most clumsy and careless of accidents. Yet he felt nothing, sensed nothing from the being laid in front of him. Using his insight, Thorn saw waves of his own energy being directed towards naught but a void. He had used this power countless times to heal beings 10, 100 times bigger than a mere brownie, and there was always something, some response. But this tiny body that had been his partner and friend for countless adventures accepted nothing and gave nothing in return. Thorn fell to his knees, too tired to even weep.
The weariness, and also dangling in front of me the hope that one of the brownies dies. So I'm going to say it's fanfic. Someone trying to get me to bite on something I very much want to happen.
All right. Coming up, the final one, number 5. It had all led up to this. Thorn mulled over Alora Dannon's words, what she had said about why he had failed to hold the bridge. It had no soul, Willow. That's what you reach, what you touch. It's how you pulled me back. It was also how he had helped the mayor, the forest spirit, even the demon's daughter. Souls. But did this pit of magma have a soul? The demon said yes. The mountains, kin to this and from so seemingly long ago, said yes in their way, their witch lights burning a piercing magenta. With a deep breath, Willow, taking his true name once more, reached out with his insight into the heart of the fires below and was transformed.
Oh, it's good. I'm going to say it's real.
Yeah.
How did I do?
Not so great. Not so great. Not so great. So we had number one. Number one was what was even in there? Heartbeat, Shipmaster, Silence Within the Hall, Spell of Resurrection, Demon's Child, Doomed. You said fanfic. It was real.
God.
The very first one. The second one, that was with Morag and Shando and Corey. You said real. That was real.
Okay.
Listener Steve sent us in that one. I guess we're going to meet Corey, Khory. We're going to meet Shando. I just get tired thinking about it.
Shando is, does a juggling act at an open stage or something.
I'm looking. Maybe the Demon's Child is Shando. That would delight me. Number 3. This was the Pathfinder. He's sharing his mage site with Garen, but can only do it for X amount of time. He can't re-energize it. You said fanfic. That one was real.
God.
There are rules to his insight. I guess we're going to learn something about that soon as well, though. Number 4 was the brownie dying. You talked that one through. You said fanfic. That one is fanfic. That one was written by Harris. I thought that one, I don't know. I thought there was a chance for that one. And then number 5, this was Alora Dannon, the pit of magma with a soul, taking his name once more, being transformed. You thought that was real. That was fanfic written by Patrick. So nicely done.
Complete failure this time.
2 out of 5 correct.
Ugh.
But like, I mean, what are you supposed to take away? It's all the same garbage. Like, it's all just like a mishmash of tropes and words. So
we got to turn one of these on you, can we?
Sure, yeah, do it next time. Let's
do it next time.
Okay. Right. There are 2 people who wrote in humor ones that I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will read just a sentence or 2 from them. The Cyclops stopped his advance through the ravaged market and trained his eye on them. For a moment it appeared Thorn had reached him, but the moment was fleeting. The rage returned, so intense and all-consuming that it threw Thorn to the ground. The Cyclops raised his club and bellowed, "Who is the sheriffs of Silver Square?" That was by Mike. That was by Mike T. And then we had one more. His mind flashed to the deceiver, still in pursuit. Was this a trap? He had muttered the last part aloud in his confusion, when suddenly a roundish daikini, face with thick, black, voluminous hair and beard, poked around the edge of the word. "Damn it, boy," he said. "It's pronounced tarp." And that was by Patrick, who wrote the 5th one that confused you.
Oh, those work so well, bringing in those old tropes,
those old friends.
Yes.
All right,
they're like warm. It's like seeing an old friend, indeed, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But thank you to everyone who sent those in. Send them in next time to try to fool me. Thank you, as always, to the Patreon folks at patreon.com/372 pages. We're ticking up close to 500 supporters, so we got to think of something to either special to do when that hits, or something to entice those final 30 or so supporters. Some big event.
Yeah, absolutely. Chapter 5, we left Hope and Crosby behind, and we are on to Laurel and Hardy 10-minute pie fight time.
Oh my
now.
God.
Boy,
oh my
boy.
God. Yep.
So enough of these souls covered with rhyme or whatever the hell was going on. Now we're getting, Oliver Hardy scooping the cream from the hollows of his eyes and, throwing it onto the ground and then staring at the camera for 30 seconds.
Yeah, just 100% the dumbest elementary school food fight that you've ever seen being presented to us here.
It opens with a line that, once again, I would like to see inserted into every classic book. Fortunately, the plate only held cold meat, so there wasn't much of a mess.
Yeah, that would work great in Slaughterhouse-5, maybe, or Beloved.
Yeah, I'd always heard, growing up and watching British comedies, especially probably thinking of Fawlty Towers, people would order cold meat salads.
Oh my God!
And so, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s I went to Ireland, and most places they have pretty standard menus everywhere, and cold meat salad was on it.
Wow.
So I ordered one once, and it was a sizable plate of, decent cold cuts, but in the middle of it was I'm not kidding you, 3/4 of a cup of mayonnaise. And that's what made it a salad. So that's what I thought of about the cold meats. Not much of a mess. I was like, what about the 3/4 cup of mayonnaise? That's got to be doing some damage.
Yeah, right. It's got to be, it hits Stan Laurel in the face, like, hey, I ordered the salad. The mayonnaise hits him, a beat after. Yeah. Thank you. God.
But so when he does get hit, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Connor, after the food was thrown, was he decorated with a fair-sized helping of mustard? Of course he was, you idiot. Of course. That's how the sentence begins. Of course, by then he was decorated with a fair-sized helping of mustard.
Of course. Of course.
Of course. God, don't be you infuriate me.
What are you still hung up on your soul being coded in rhyme? Get in the game. Food fight with a 13-year-old. Yeah, but there's all sorts of weird things about this. This was a good one. He slapped aside some relish, wincing at the crash of crystal on stone. Part of an artisan's life and soul had gone into the creation of that vessel. It deserved a better fate. So he's taking the time to slap aside relish and to dodge cold meats, to mourn for the poor artisan who is crafting this thing that this girl is heartlessly tossing around.
He's prefacing the Marie Kondo thing where you thank your shirts and stuff as you fold them up. He's like thinking about every object. Thank you, relish jar.
Yes. You've got Rule and Frangine are out of the corner of each eye, gleefully heaving goo back the way it came. So you've just gone all the way from recognizable foodstuffs to just random goo they're throwing around.
And they're doing it gleefully. Any minute they could have their legs devoured by a heron who's laughing at them. But hey, for now,
right,
enjoy this. I have another sound challenge for you.
Oh, please.
He uttered a goose-like squawk as first feet went flying, and then the rest of him depositing him with a thump right beside the cart. So if you could just ADR that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Was it? Whoa. Seems, yeah.
All right, cut and print.
Michael Winslow, yeah. This was also good just to, you get, he's mourning the destruction of a man's life work, and then a few sentences later, Alora responded by upending a silver tureen of cold soup over his head. He had a moment to appreciate the taste, which was delicious, before she dropped the bowl itself on top of him. So he's doing, that's exactly what you described. He's just like, doing the cartoon where your tongue comes out and licks all the soup off your face to clean it before
right.
she like hammers down the bowl.
But right after this, we get a very accurate description of what insight allows.
Okay.
And it allows you to see through a bowl of soup because she thought him blinded by both soup and bowl, which she's taking the time to make that distinction after throwing it at his head, I guess, unaware that his insight gave him a painfully perfect view of the scene as she took hold of more things to throw at him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what insight is. It sees through both soup and bowl.
Yeah, but we're left to wonder if insight would have been able to see through a hot soup. Because it was specified this was cold. So it is not canon that insight can see through hot soups. Yeah.
Can I ask, though, what soup remains when you have had a bowl of soup thrown at you? And it went on his head, right?
Yeah, gravity traditionally removes it from the bowl very quickly.
Okay, well, I guess there would be a thin surface of soup on the bowl, so technically he is looking through soup.
Blinded through it. But in the sentence right before that, it says, he wasn't without resources himself as his questing hands came up with a tall carafe of sparkling water. And so as he uses his insight, you might have forgotten the sparkling water, but there's nothing more slapstick than this. He shakes up the sparkling water and just like seltzer sprays it at her and into her open mouth. So a pure, I don't know when those were in vogue, but it is the clowns with seltzer running around.
And then it gets even more comic. She made glug noises, the same as if he dunked her underwater, then hit the flagstones herself as Frangine pulled on one ankle while Rule pushed on the other.
Oh, wow. So they're doing the kneel behind you and the other one pushes you over trick from the playground?
Mm-hmm.
I've never understood how that was fair play. You know, if you just walk up to someone and shove them over, it's like, you just assaulted me. You're going to get suspended. But if you if someone else kneels behind them and makes it even more of a fall, it's like, oh, you got me.
Right. This one puzzled me. After the food battle, he says this: he didn't want to consider what needed plucking from his hair. Well, I mean, you were part of the battle. What are you saying? Like, what is going to be there that you don't know about?
Yeah,
okay.
right.
You were just. This is seconds after the food fight has ended.
Yeah, I hope there wasn't any dog feces on that cart, because that would certainly on that I hauled up here. That would be awkward to plug out.
I don't even want to consider it.
I also like this. So he ends up running from her and hides in an alcove, I guess. I think while she's distracted by the seltzer. Then it says he started to access insight for a look at Alora's situation, but the brownie's words erased the need. So insight is something he needs to access. So he has to be just like, you know, I'm in, you know.
Yeah.
So there was it's mysterious, because later on he appears to do it, you know, at will and instantaneously. So I'm not sure what the access is all about.
I'm picturing, you know, like Knight Rider or something, like, you know, Kit, give me my insight now.
Right.
Of course, master. Yeah, I didn't. This is where things started to get confusing. For what it's worth, I followed the food fight. It's
sure.
Absurd and stupid. But for the first time, I was like, all right, he's writing, you know, somewhat coherently. I'm not having to imagine him spitting on rocks and singing to mountains or whatever. He's just chucking stuff at a kid.
Yeah.
So I at least followed that. But then it quickly goes downhill from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets very
confusing. I don't
confusing.
understand what happens. But before we get to that, though.
Yeah.
So they get chased from the prince, and then Rule presents a sandwich.
Yes.
So the battle is over, and Rule had used the silver slip ring to hold it closed. Inside was a very sloppy sandwich, mismatched slices of bread, around a half dozen varieties of meat, plus some cheese and tomato and lettuce. And here's a challenge to you from that. Name a half dozen varieties of meat. Just right off the bat.
Salami, bologna, capricola, speck,
speck is
jamon
your fourth.
serrano, and pepperoni.
Okay, that's pretty well done. But yeah, so in the middle of the battle, Rule is making a 6-meat sandwich.
Yeah, so
that's
I guess
sloppy.
Yeah, and then Thorne objects to this. Thorne says, Rule says, a tad messy, but that's only dirt. No, I didn't want to warrant any proper body harm. And Thorne says, what, you just grabbed whatever was at hand off the floor? So he's been wandering the wilderness for 12, years, presumably eating like grubs and tapping into cactus for moisture. But now he's all of a sudden can't abide the 5-second rule.
And he takes a slice and he saves the rest. He returned all but a quarter to the napkin and then slipped it into his traveling pouch and says, likely to be hungry later. We all might. So is this pouch like stuffed with sloppy dripping sandwiches?
Yeah.
That he's saving for later?
Yeah, it's just like my college fridge where it's like, how long have these leftovers been in here? Like, I guess we were told that you can put whatever you wanted in that bag and it would be accessible, but it didn't have any sort of like description of its like preservative properties.
No, and he specifically says he'd done this many times before. So he's like one of those, recyclable bags to the Whole Foods thing where eventually they get kind of stinky on the bottom and everything. So then she goes full Van Halen and starts smashing up the plates and crystals, breaking them into powder, it says, and shrieking all the while at the top of her lungs.
Yeah, he calls her a harridan.
Yeah.
So she, I think, is just like so fed up with everything. She doesn't know where he goes, but I think this is meant to convey that this is like sort of normal behavior for her. And it also provides Willow sort of with an excuse to be off in the distance, sizing her up to start, critiquing the 13-year-old girl's looks.
Mm-hmm. This is, again, where the actress is reading it going, oh, thanks, man.
Right.
Yeah, give us the physical rundown.
He says, unfortunately, at this point, she was plump. She'd lost none of her baby fat and put on more besides. round face, bulging torso, as lacking of physical grace as she was in spirit. Hers was a face more used to sobs than smiles. From hurts Thorne suspected were generally more imagined than real. Her eyes were all closed and squinty, like a pig's. So, yeah, this is the... he's gone... he's soured on his goddaughter pretty quickly.
He looked around and immediately saw 10 hotter kids.
I like that he says that he just immediately sizes up that she's all squinty and sobby from things she's imagining instead of from actual, she's like, you know nothing of my life.
Yeah. And she's layer upon layer of clothes, each wrapped and tied and buckled into place until the child could hardly move. And yet can engage in some pretty fine food fights.
Yeah, dumping bowls and whipping cold meats,
and smashing ceramics to powder. That takes some that takes some movement.
It's like Harrison Bergeron. You don't want to see what she's capable of when they take off these blinders.
Right.
My God.
Yeah, I wondered after that description whether Pappy read a first draft and said, consider having her teeth smeared with lipstick, and I think you'll really paint a picture there. I like where you're going with it, but make her drunk, maybe.
Yeah. People don't, no one but him really comes across well here, so you got to respect it.
Yeah. So after the fight, this is where I start to get kind of confused.
Yeah, very confusing. Get to this. There's the confusing part, but I just want to address this one base thing. They says, someone says, I respect the Daikini and fear them. He says, no, they have no power, no power worth their name, not as the term is understood in the realms beyond. Among the Veil folk are beings of air and earth, fire and water, who can bend those elements to their will. So, is there a really crappy movie lurking within this really crappy book of airbenders?
Yeah, bending them. Yeah, I missed the bending part. I was just enraged by the flurry of uppercase.
Yep.
Veil folk, air and earth, fire and water,
realms beyond.
Yeah. Ugh.
And then it says, elves, fairies, goblins, a whole panoply of creatures, the least of whom is a match and more for any human. The face of this globe could be cleansed of Daikini in a single night span, and don't think we haven't heard it proposed. So I was just wondering if there was like an elf Hitler out there that was just like, trying to have some sort of Daikini final solution or something.
Oh, good heavens.
I would read that book, I think.
Yes. So two questions. Who's Bavmorda?
Bavmorda was the evil queen in the movie. Who is not? I guess she died in the movie. So,
well, he just brings her up in this.
Yeah, familiar names. They've got to ground it. They've got to make people remember they're still reading a Willow book.
Right after you mentioned the Veil folk who can do all that, it says it does no good to transform your foes into an army of pigs. And I was just thinking, we just had a pig described there. Is he hinting at the fact that she's been transformed into one?
Oh, wow. Yeah. She does have the pig-like eyes.
But then the disappearing wall.
Okay. Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah.
The wall turned to gaseous muck. I'm not familiar with gaseous muck, but nothing to support him, and he felt himself teeter on the brink of some impossible abyss. A maw gaped. A dual sense of implacable resolve and a hunger that nothing could sate. What is this? What's happening?
I don't know. Maybe he should have eaten more of the floor sandwich if he was that hungry.
He pitches sideways. He's sprawling full length.
He claws his way up his own legs. He's terrified the floor would begin to crumble after the wall and he would lose what little purchase and hope remained. And then it sort of stops.
Yeah. And she runs up and she hits him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that?
I don't know. I get further confused later when he goes back to the dungeon and stuff, but there's a lot of things I don't understand, and this is where it all begins. So it's like a brief hallucination, it seems. I don't know if it's brought on by the night herons or what, but he made Brownie screamed too, so they're seeing it. I don't know what we're supposed to take away.
It's a very irritating habit of his. It's just like we're in a completely different area. It's foreshadowing something. There's no reason to do it. Anyway, we're quickly back on familiar ground because she comes out and he describes how she's covered in all of the things that we already knew were there. But I was very disappointed that once again he didn't do. He's talking about egg and potato and custard and mustard and ketchup, and just didn't do the Star Trek thing of familiar terms and then, mustard, ketchup, and the Dakini fermented relish blaka, or something. Right. It was all just, it was like you went to your own refrigerator and covered yourself with stuff. That's what she was.
Yeah, exactly. The 4th of July cookout. It just, yeah, and I also like this description of her. It says, she says, filthy little wretch. Her voice was rough, ill-served by years of tantrums, thickened more by partially blocked airways. You did that on purpose. So I guess she's, not only does she resemble a pig, she also sounds like Nick Nolte.
Rough and blocked? Why does she have partially blocked airways?
I don't know if it's
she's
just
got
cold
COPD
meat she's been horking down. Like,
yeah, she's been smoking for a lot of years. And
Boy, I'll tell you, partner.
But then we get this reassuring thing because she is his goddaughter, so it is nice to see that he still vaguely approves. It says, through the pouts and the plump, he still saw the child of memory for whom he'd risked everything. So there's still a kernel there, Get her off to fat camp or something, and Willow still might take her under his wing and pay for sort of her college education or something.
Right. Yeah. But she grabs him and calls for the captain of the guard, right? And this is where and she's digging her pinching pig fingers into his arm, and the brownies attack.
Yep.
And this is where we get that description. Brownie daggers weren't much longer than rose thorns, but they were much, much sharper. And so he's trying to... So they're stabbing her.
They stab her in, like, the butt, don't they? Or
yeah, and then the heel?
Yeah.
I mean, take a rose thorn, only much sharper, and plunge it into your own heel and your ass. I mean, this is rough stuff. This is not... And they're trying to make it, in this, it's supposed to be very funny. Like, they're nothing. They're just nothing. It's
supposed to be like you're flicking someone's earlobe or like, a mischievous, like a pesky fly or something.
Yeah, but a very, very sharp plunged into your heel is, my God, that's got to be just agony.
Fortunately, the revolting scamp's pig flesh, was able to endure the jabs, the blubber was...
Her hide was toughened by years of wallowing in pits of disgust.
Yeah. She also loved LOL surprise dolls. But yeah, so they stab her a bunch, and then Wizard is we get for the first time another sense of his magic's limitations. He says he considered an enchantment to put her to sleep and cast the events of the past few minutes into the semblance of a dream, but suspected it wouldn't hold on her. That was one of her gifts. Lesser spells rolled off her like water off a duck. So, for the first time, a wizard didn't do it. He's unable to use his magic, and he just sort of suspects this, I guess.
Yeah, but he has so many spells. Can't he just run through them and see, some of the others? He brings people back to life with regularity.
And
truly godlike.
He can also break a man's back with his bare hands. So I'm not really sure why a tray of cold cuts tossed like ninja stars is really going to deter him.
And why didn't they just take on the captain of the guard with the knives stabbing into his heel? And, he'd be like, I don't have pig flesh. My God, it's awful.
Right, yeah. I'm toned and this hurts even more. It's ripping my muscles to shreds.
But they, back to Bing and Crosby, that famous comedy team, they begin running through the castle. An escape, right? I assume, tipping over chairs behind them so that the guards, can't follow them or whatever.
Yeah, they're probably this close to pulling some guards into a equipment closet and emerging wearing their uniform. I still think there's a chance that might happen.
But then, this is where I'm losing it. They run and they see The thing? The night heron?
Yeah, they escape to some sort of garden or something. Very confusing. And they see a night heron, but then they see like Alora meeting up with the night heron.
Right.
Like it's her pet.
Yeah.
And so it's described thusly. She smiled a greeting of delight, and it butted its head against her like a favored companion. It made a noise that to him was worse than claws scratching down a window pane, but that left her laughing. Then both looked towards his hiding place. One hand raised to point, two mouths opened, two throats uttered an unearthly wail. So she's like, in league with this thing, or if this is some sort of, succubus version of her that's hanging out with these night herons. But he does what we'd all do. He flees back to the dungeon he had just escaped.
God.
Right? Like, this is that's all I could pick up. I don't understand. It's a big castle, big town. There's all sorts of places he could go, but some reason he has opted to go down here. Maybe he feels safe there. Maybe the night herons don't have domain. I don't know.
And then he begins talking. I guess we eventually learn that this is a demon.
Yep, the bold texted demon.
But this took me a long time to figure out, and I still don't. I remain confused by it. He just starts chatting with this thing.
Yeah.
He says, like, who are you?
Yeah, I don't know if it was like insight chatting or if he's actually saying these things out loud or if the brownies can hear too. But the demon starts just sort of getting in his ear. And
Rule and Frangine what are they doing during this?
They're protesting. I mean, they're like, that's a soul eater. That's a demon. Like, don't talk to that guy. But
why did they run into the dungeon, though?
Well, I mean, they knew there was a demon there, and they had escaped. And he's like putting his like bindings back on, like he's putting on the manacles and the chains.
Right. The demon kind of tells him to do that or something.
Because some people are coming down. The captain's coming down, back with Princess Anna Carey and some other like torturer or something.
Question: who's Princess Anna Carey?
Princess Anna Carey is the chick that he saw dozens of hotter girls than. The Princess of the Thunder Rider.
Oh, okay.
And it only just clicked to me now that Anna Carey is very similar to Anakin in the George Lucas version.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. He goes back down there. He sees that her coming down. The torturer, the much older man who's with those two, has a death dog at his heel, unchained and obedient as any household puppy. He sort of is conflicted by this. The brownies are saying don't trust him, but it says the words came unbidden, the thought from nowhere, as though his own soul had taken momentary charge of his brain and dictated what was to come next. There wasn't a single reason to trust the demon. A lifetime of stories telling him to do precisely the opposite. Very few people probably need that spelled out. Don't trust the demons, but our hero evidently does.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm confused then by faint crackles of blue fire pop from one flat piece of iron across to the other, but nothing else happened. Sweat ran into his eyes. Blazing hot. The crackles weren't faint anymore. The death dog had almost reached him. I don't know what's going on there.
I think he must have like hooked up one hand into the handcuffs, but then in order to hook up the other hand, he has to use electromagnetic magic to cuff the handcuff for him. That's all I could pick up on.
Why would that stop the death dog from attacking?
I don't know if the death dog would approach the cell and be like, wait a second, like he's not cuffed. Like there's something amiss. It didn't make any sense the first two times I read it, so it's I don't know if there's anything we're going to unearth here.
But at least that confusing thing is ended with a good old cliche of when he opened his eyes again, he had company. The full complement of his inquisitors had arrived. I thought that was it's an okay variation, but it really should have been Rule or Frangine tapping him and going, "We got company."
Yep. Not now. I'm accessing my insight.
Yes.
Tap,
there
tap,
are
tap,
sparks that are cracking and burbles and boilings of steam whistles. I'm trying to confuse the audience here. Come on.
The last note I had for the chapter was that they described the death dog. It says the noises it made were nothing like any honest hound. So I had mistaken that death dogs were honest hounds, but this turns out that the The death dogs are not. There's no honesty amongst them.
Oh yeah, I mean if a death dog wants to borrow your boat or whatever, don't even take a deposit. Just give it to them.
No, come on, man. I want. There's a girl I'm trying to impress. Let me have it.
Yeah. But hound, yeah, all day long. Baby.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, it ends with company, and just like the food fight did, Chapter 6 picks up right where it left off.
I was infuriated by that. We now have 3 chapters that are just contiguous, no reason to have any break whatsoever. And if he's going to do these kinds of artificial breaks, then I guess I would appreciate more artificial paragraph breaks too. Just bust them up in ways that just so my eye can kind of rest and not get depressed as it looks down a solid column of text, impenetrable text.
Yeah, I mean, as books we've read, Dwight David Thrash and the White Worm and stuff, those were not easy books to read. The font in Trucking Through Time was not easy, but these paragraphs, man, do they start to just, you zone out.
Yeah, well, should we forge on chapter 6?
Let's do it. Got to make it happen.
All right.
And most of this chapter is the 3 Daikini who have just come down are interrogating him, and they slap him around a bit, which is nice. I appreciate.
But almost the exact same thing as when he was slapped earlier by that guard, I noted.
The captain,
it wasn't
I think
meant to hurt. This was more the reminder given by a parent to a willful child to pay attention and behave. Worse would come later. So every time he's hit, he's like, it's not that bad, but it's certainly a warning for later. Like, no, you're being hit right now. I mean,
yeah. And yeah, what does that reveal about either of these authors? Like, yeah, you know how you slap your kid around? It was like that, It wasn't
it's just a warning.
It wasn't like when you hit your wife, really teach her a lesson. This was more of a hitting your kid kind of thing.
Right, guys?
We just did we rehearsed a movie today, a cartoon for kids where the hero, the lead hero, slaps his twin sister in a moment of, in a heated moment.
Slaps her to immediate red mark on her face, knocking her to the floor. Our hero.
Yeah. So look for that one. Attack of the Super Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been awesome if he had name dropped that. But I am positive that Ernest Cline has seen that movie.
Of course.
It's a classic. It's a classic, terrible movie.
Here's a sly reference here. See if you pick up on it. Nervously, he licked his lips, casting a furtive flash of the eyes toward the death dog. Quick as he was, the hound caught his gaze and bared teeth in a hungry snarl, jaws closing with an audible snap. I think that is a reference to Mad Mardigan's other character in Top Gun, snapping his teeth at someone.
Yeah, well, we had one of those last time, didn't we?
Yes, we had another tooth snap.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're putting in Easter eggs here.
Yes.
But yeah, the guy, the captain slaps him around. He's like biting into his cheek and stuff. Like it gets, it gets more than just warning slaps, in my opinion.
He starts beating him around pretty good here.
But then the lady, I forget, Anna Carey, takes over. She says, "What's your name, Thorn Drumheller lady? Tell us of Willow." He swallowed extravagantly. "I'm not sure what my lady means." And so I said thank you to addressing the way that we're all feeling as reading this book, because this is where it starts to get very confusing. With they know of Willow, there's also a Magus. The Magus may or may not be a Nelwyn. They think that Thorn might be the Magus, or perhaps Willow, and I am confused as hell.
You're going with Magus, huh?
How is it pronounced?
It's pronounced Bing. I know. Sorry, that was low blow.
Couldn't walk.
Low blow. I believe it's Magus.
Magus. All right. Lateral move for a word that hasn't been used since the Dark Ages.
If I'm wrong, I got a lot of custard on my face, so we'll see. I'll look it up after, but I think it's Magus.
All right. So, but yes, I'm extremely confused because she goes on to say she didn't have the patience of the Myzen, or perhaps the atmosphere of the cell was affecting her as it did the Death Dog. Willow Ufgood, slayer of the sorceress demon queen Bavmorda, godfather and sworn protector of the sacred princess Alora Dannon, the Magus. Need I say more? So it seems to think that Willow is the Magus.
Yes,
they say that the Nelwyn said there could only be one Magus, So again, I don't know if there's a fake Willow out there or what the hell is
because
going on.
he says that he's like doing battle with the magus or something. Like he's not aware either.
But he was brought here because Gurren thought that he could find the magus or something.
Yes. It's deeply confusing, though.
It's incredible.
It seems like each individual character has a different view of what the magus is. And they can't, it's like a who's on first thing here with the people going back and forth. Because he doesn't, there's no inner thought of him going like, now he's really nervous because she's hit upon the truth, but I must hide my identity.
Right.
It's like, no, you're just left to go, wait, he doesn't have any idea either what she's talking about?
Right. No, I think he says as much. He's just like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. She says like, he says that is no. Oh, well, let's read this whole thing. The trooper says different, commented the warlord. Says you're a Nelwyn. I've never denied that. But the magus says he's the only Nelwyn. The magus is mistaken. They slap him. Are you arguing, Peck? Forgive me, Lord, but you are misinformed. You know the magus? Lord? Don't be so tedious, Peck. You said you could help with the search. I knew him when he was a farmer, Lord. So the magus says he's the only Nelwyn. Thorn says that's not true. He says, you know the magus. He says, I knew him when he was a farmer. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Well, I mean, I think he's being sly there, but it's so confusing saying there's more than one, but they all think there's, I don't know.
Yeah, but they seem to be in communication with the magus. Let's not, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Let's not harp on it. Yeah.
You know what you just read there? I forgot to do it, but I was going to get the word, the trooper says different, commented the warlord, says you're a new one. It reminded me of Roadhouse. I got a cousin down in New Orleans. Says you killed a man. Says you said at the trial it was in self-defense. Like, you have to have a cousin in New Orleans to know that. Right. It was a famous murder trial. You could look it up. You could call the county records or whatever, but no, you have to have a cousin.
Well, they couldn't really look it up because they don't know his last name. So,
yeah, that is true. That checks out. I'm sorry. All these years I've been slandering that movie, and it's right on.
She uses a new technique on him. It's not a minor glamour, but she uses a voice caress on him. She like whispers in his ear, and that's a new type of spell.
Oh, so is that different than she's like putting stars in his face or whatever?
Yeah, she also does that. She drew a bunch of stars, drew a circle on his forehead, a third eye, and then that invokes a mind meld.
God.
Which she uses as sort of like a polygraph almost to see if he's telling the truth.
All right, well, then I missed that particular, minor glamour, or whatever the hell it is. But I did note that they do this a couple times. The underling refers to each of the overlings as Dread Lord. Is that something you call to your boss to his face? Right. Like, I thought that was a thing, my Dread Lord will, he's dreaded. He's awful, but you don't like... To him, you usually have some, my suzerain, my king of kings. You don't call him, you scurvy piece of crap.
Maybe he's trying to take it back and make it his own word.
I guess that could be, yeah.
But yeah, so they get a hair description of her. She shakes her head, picking her silver clip from her braid and threading her fingers through her hair from her forehead to pull back the thick mahogany plates free, as though she couldn't bear it to be bound any longer. So drink yet again. I wish we had actually played that drinking game for this. It would have made this more fun.
Right, right. He's really trying to make the plate thing a thing. And
yeah,
I'm not ready to bite on that yet.
When you read it before, I wasn't even sure how it was spelled. So now I see that it's Plait.
Yes, I mean it's a real word, but it's not one that has any human ever said that to you.
No,
of course not. Oh, there was an earlier word. I threw my note away already, but I think I remember. Ensorcelled?
I didn't see that one.
Which I knew was, probably to cast some sort of sorcery, and I looked it up, and yeah, it's there in the dictionary, in a dusty page that has never been looked at. So yeah, he pulled out ensorcelled.
Webster's Word of the Year in 1612.
Right.
Then he's like explaining things to her. She's sort of believing him. She sees a flash of her long lost twin brother. And then when he's on the verge of sort of winning her over and convincing him that he's not the magus, and then the bad guy, the dread captain, rushes forward with some like magic knife and stabs it into his third eye, where she had painted in his forehead.
Oh, yeah. Yes, so that's after she outlined his lips to prevent him from holding back any words.
Sure.
After that, the same to his ears, so she'd hear only her words, and to his nose, so she'd have mastery over his very breath.
And he sort of just like knows what she's doing. He's like, "Oh, you're doing the old nose to your breath thing." Oh,
yeah,
I see.
He says he's done it 100 times. So he's gone up to people and drawn star crap on people and melded with them against their will. So he's pretty dread himself, I'd say.
Right. I guess so. I guess they had to like bend down so he could reach their face or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He sort of convulses, does a scarecrow dance when he stabs him. He realizes that this is how they got his not son Farron to become leader of the Death Dog Pack. Makes as much sense if you're hearing it for the first time here as it does when you read it.
I was kind of giving up at this point. I got to admit, it was tough. It was tough going. I did not get that that's what he was talking about with that. Because there's been like 4 spells cast back and forth, right? Since he's been down there.
Right,
There's lightning bolts are sealing up iron. It's all poorly described, and eventually you're just like, okay, whatever. Just give me to what's going to happen.
The demon who's been talking to him has sort of just made himself scarce during this whole thing.
Right. I'll be over in the corner, and if you need me, just give me a shout. But I'm going to hang out here and see what's going down.
No, I could really use some help. They've got me tied up in some sort of psychic bond here, and now a guy's stabbing me through the forehead. If we're going to have a
I'm just going to finish this text, and then you got my full attention.
But yeah, they move on to I think they sort of leave. The old man leaves. The death dog leaves. Also very unclear. You would think that
Jalabi leaves.
Yes.
He says, "Is that your solution to everything, Jalabi?" I thought that was very Lucasy. That had to be a Lucas note.
Oh yeah, Jalabi and Shando.
Yes.
Road to Angwin.
And then he talks about the bonding, which is caps, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Ugh.
There's more of this like sort of like hallucinogenic body horror that we've gotten a few times. That same sort of like hallucination that we didn't make heads or tail of earlier. It says everything in him that hurt he transformed into rage and cast it out in his voice. Fire exploded from his breast, lighting him from within as it followed the byways of his nervous system to the ends of his body and shot away with such fury that chains were ripped from their place in the wall. He like pulls the wall down, and like no matter that skin was broken and bones crushed beneath, but I guess he's okay. He's like tearing his cheeks to shreds, teeth are broken. Like
that's was almost exactly my note. Like, do I have this right? He's got a dagger in his head, and he's fighting it with a sword that he made with his mind, but he's getting broken and crushed by something, and his mouth is smashed to bits.
Right.
That's where we are right now.
Yeah. But
this, by the way, is after a soul self, again, one word.
Oh, yeah.
And change spell. So,
but yeah, it's one of those crushed by rocks, teeth shattered things that you just sort of like shake it off.
Sure.
Come on, walk it off, man.
Yeah,
your soul self is fine.
Yeah, I've taken so many daggers to the head and crushed my own mouth more times than I can count.
At least I don't look like a pig child.
And then he turns into the floor. Just so I had everything. Yes. Everything was clear as
it's
could
all
be.
True. Yes. I just imagine someone like who's not reading the book, who's listening to this, driving and like running off the road. My God. So yep. You delve into the world of fantasy just to like escape. The confines of reality to just take you to a magical place where things happen that you can't do in your day-to-day life, like turning into the floor. The demon comes along. Yeah, it says all light went away. The torches left by Modri, that's the captain, so Thorn could watch what was happening to him, simply winked out. The floor rose up around him as though it had turned to tar, and then he was the floor. He was stone, every stone, from the core foundation to the highest roof point. And then you get one of these, which is always great when, like, authors like Lovecraft, I feel like, does this a lot. He had no words to describe the experience and no means to catalog the overwhelming number and variety of sensations. Well done, author who's telling us this story.
Yeah, that's not, that ain't right. That's kind of your job.
Yeah. But yeah, he becomes the floor.
And then as the floor, he's able to, I didn't know this about floors. They're looking at us all the time because he's able to kind of wander around the castle.
Yep.
And listen to things.
Eavesdrop. Yeah.
So it's kind of like an NSA floor here. He's able to do anything. And then he gives this very common example of what it's like. It was like standing at the heart of a mirror room, knowing that even the most wayward glance would reveal a near infinite number of reflections, no two quite the same. And I think we can all appreciate what it's like to stand at the heart of a mirror room, knowing that even the most wayward glance. So thank you for using that very, very common description to give us this very abstruse thing you're trying to describe, right? Even more confusing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only reason that any of us understand what he's talking about is having seen that in, movies or cartoons or something, the experience of being in a mirror funhouse. So we just relying on that cliche.
He's not talking about a funhouse, though, a mirror room that even I don't know. Maybe he is talking about a funhouse because they do have Halloween and everything there. So,
right.
I guess it's like a regular old funhouse.
So he's seeing him as the floor reflected off into infinity?
That's what
Does he have, like, is there a face in the floor? Like, I mean,
I don't know.
And so he eavesdrops on two Daikini. He describes them as both portly and dressed for success. And they're sort of like the exposition brigade. They're saying things like, hey, the king knows his business. So I believed until those damnable Mazen were invited within these walls. Well, their warlord is a prince in his own right, just the man to tame and carry. As allies, they'd secure our southern frontiers. You can't deny that. And it's only an escort party. I doubt the Red Lions have anything to fear from a few score men, even Thunder Riders. So he just gets that out there, they do a bit more of that, just sort of seeding plot points for the future. I guess there's some potential betrayal about to happen.
Right. Yeah, this is a little conspiracy. But yeah, I was already thrown by the guys who were dressed for success.
Yes, that was amazing.
It's like power ties and, those different colored collars and then a collar tab, like, Wall Street kind of a thing.
The Men's Warehouse guy is sizing them up and like, I guarantee it.
But just before that, I'll just read a little bit of it because in the middle of all this confusing crap, I think this paragraph is pretty much unreadable, but here it is. Then, absurdly, the concept of drowning led to that of swimming. He was a rare Nulwyn. He liked the water. Why are we talking about water now? And why is it absurd to go from drowning to swimming? And that he wasn't very graceful. He remembered Rule muttering that he had the style of a lame frog, and more than once Bastion and Anil using him for fishing practice. He's a floor now. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah,
he stopped worrying about all that. He was worrying about that? He's a goddamn floor. What is he doing?
Look, you've never turned into a floor. You don't know what, it could be very much like swimming.
Yes. But here's what your therapist should tell you, because he ends all of that, whatever that was, that confusion. He's now accepting that he can't swim and that Bastion and Anil used him for fishing practice, I guess. This cacophony was the medium through which he moved. Sanity was a matter of relegating it to the background where it could be ignored. So, if you go in with severe mental problems and you think you're a floor and you're having visions of being a lame frog and you're being fished out by giant eagles, just put it in the background and ignore it.
Yeah. Little voice telling you to, go up in the clock tower and start plucking people off. Ignore that.
That one is just, I just thought, for God's sake, editor, take that out.
Fishing practice, lame frog. I mean, it's a good example of his verbal jugular, but still, it's.
Anyway.
But then someone else he's eavesdropping on, speaks for the entire reading audience when they said, I shall be so thankful when one of this is over. It's like the equivalent of the guy who starts the Phantom Menace by saying, "I have a bad feeling about this."
Right.
But in speaking of the Phantom Menace, we get this clear Lucas influence. I forget who's talking at this point, but you've seen my plans. With engines of steam, we can haul more goods faster. We'll gladly pay tariffs provided, the merchant said after a hesitation. They're reasonable. So that's good too. You just have a potential tariffs, the most exciting kind of tariff.
Let's get into a council chamber and discuss those tariffs.
Because you don't know how big they're going to be, or maybe they'll be small ones that are reasonable. So it's exciting.
It is. We got
especially
that to look forward to.
From the POV of a floor. He also he hears Alora's dressmaker calling her a spavined little bitch.
Spavined, yeah. Ugh.
And then he comes out of it. I guess he just sort of like travels around the whole thing as the floor, but then he eventually comes out of it back in the cell. And anything else while he's the floor?
No,
Okay.
Then it gets to the really long conversation with the demon.
Yeah, but first we get a hint that he may or may not have crapped his pants while as the floor. It says he pushed himself up to see that the wall was still broken, and he lay amongst a scattered jumble of stone blocks. Some were freshly stained, but he decided not to investigate further. Good detail. His clothes, what remained of them, were as fouled, and he began to undress.
Oh man, I was thinking, honestly, I was probably speed reading at this point. I was thinking that he was like bloody or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Fouled.
Fouled, yeah.
Yeah. Who's the pig now, man?
Yeah. He's doing the Point Break thing, and he's crapping his pants. And he's about to rub it into his hair. Isn't that what he accuses Keanu Reeves of doing? That?
It's like he's saying he's been working since he was young enough to be doing that. I think that was his.
Wow. Okay, so the pulling the walls down was real. So his mouth is
torn to shreds,
bashed up, and his teeth are all shattered, and there's stumps in his mouth because they're cutting his mouth up and everything, right?
I can't keep track. I don't know. Nothing a minor glamour can't fix.
All right.
But yeah, the demon then starts talking to him. He says his backstory, how I came to be. I do not know. I have always been of this place, bound to the stones when they were freestanding, and carried with them when quarried or cut to form the first foundation. No memory of who had ensnared it, or why, or how long ago, save it was a time when none of the present races walked the world. So that's his thrilling contribution. I don't know. I just always been here. Just don't ask me any questions. I can't even remember myself.
But Thorn. Typical of what he does when he gets into a boring conversation and needs to get out of there. I must go, Thorn said. I got this thing.
Right. You came back here. No, you don't.
You locked yourself up. So he tells him he can't go, and then, you owe me the debt for what I did, which I'm still puzzling over exactly what that was.
Well, I think he turned him into the floor.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the first taste is free, but if you ever want that to happen again...
you want to overhear more tariff conversations, who are you going to come to, huh? This guy.
Yeah. You also get as he's looking at his, I guess, non-fouled clothes, or maybe his clothes, but you get... This section was front-loaded with the unnecessary descriptions, but boy, they end with a bang. So it says, the darkness moved, initially revealing Thorn's belt and pouches, which he gratefully pulled to him. He fished out a canteen and splashed precious water on his face. Fresh clothes came to hand, a fashion mostly inspired by Rule. A shirt of heavy cotton, dyed a green so dark it was almost black, as useful for camouflage in the night as in the deep woods. Trousers of wool, buckskin boots that laced to the knee, designed for hard travel. I mean, he was just a floor, and they're telling us how boots work. Designed for hard travel over rough country, dark sweater woven so tightly it was virtually waterproof even without his enchantments to help. Shearling vest built with big pockets. The sweater and vest he let lie for a moment, warm enough in shirt alone. It just... Again.
And then he scarfed some food. So remember, the demon's just like sitting there, watching him. It's like, hey, can we remember? I own your soul now, and hang on, just gotta Got one boot on and a lot of laces on these boots, so hang on here.
You help yourself to some floor meat sandwich while I'm lacing up. Because
one lace, and there is two. There are 37 laces on that boot.
Well, sure, they're designed for hard travel over rough country. You expect me to...
I'm going to put on my shearling vest now. Pretty big pockets on this baby, if I do say so. Mike, would you just finish dressing?
Yeah. He just keeps like puffing out the Patagonia logo on his vest to hope the guy will notice. Like.
Hoping that the demon, the floor demon notices. I don't know why he thought for a moment that he didn't have to, but there seems to be a lot of like, no, you can't go. Remember, this is a clear thing. You sold your soul to a demon. So
he's
where
sort of
do
like,
you think you're going? He's like, I got to get running.
There was some stuff where it was like he took a deep breath and gave in or something. Like the demon was like, I can help you, but it's because ruler Frangine was like, you're making a deal with a demon. He was like, I know. So it never explained what the deal was, but I think it just
But why does he think he can just go? He knows that he made
right,
the deal.
Sure, yeah, right,
yeah.
And the deal,
the deal. If you can explain this, you win. You win everything.
Well, he shows him a woman from the Spice Lands, and the Spice Lands have been richly established so far in the book, in the sense that they have been referred to once with no further information. So we don't really need to know much more about this woman. But it says she didn't breathe, but she wasn't dead. So she might be the woman who fell down the stairs and hit her head.
But please make note of the fact that he says when he looked up, a woman lay before him. She floated at waist height, with night on every side. And then he goes on to describe not very hot woman here.
So her feet are where her waist would be normally? She's like floating off the...
she lay, so I feel like she's doing a little, video game, like floating in front of him for something.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why. And then by the end of the chapter...
Well, it's a Spice Lands thing. It's a Spice Lands thing.
Okay. But do you know who you think it's that woman? But there's no clue to that, is there?
No, that was purely just like my mind needs to make some logical connections here. Otherwise, I'm gonna go Lovecraftian mad that I cannot describe.
Because then he says, "Who was she?" Mm-hmm. And then we get the answer, "Meat." As you are meat. Is there a difference?
Yeah.
So, I guess we had meat at the beginning of the last chapter. We had plates of cold meat, now we get this meat.
Yeah, so I guess that's just sort of the nihilistic demon just being like, it's nothing to me. I've been here before you, and I'll be here after you, so you're all meat.
Yeah, but if you came up to, let's say you're the demon, and I'm me, and you present a woman, and I go, who's this? And then you say, meat. What's your follow-up question? It's like,
well, why did you show me the meat?
Why are you showing me the meat?
Yes.
Let's not argue about the semantics. You don't think there's a soul or whatever. Why are you presenting me with a meat person? And that never comes up.
No, he does. It's the master of not asking the questions that need to be answered just in order to keep the whatever qualifies as a narrative here going.
Well, maybe he's just like too embarrassed to ask. Like, I really should know why he's dangling a piece of meat lady in front of me at waist height, but like in middle school, someone like in the locker room shows you a picture of her, like a really attractive person, and you don't know who it is, but you're too embarrassed to be like, he's like, check it out. And you're like, oh yeah. So she's just hovering there, and then they have once again, kind of have the discussion of, you bargain with the demon and you're cursed as a result, and so now you need to pay me off. Mm-hmm. And so I want freedom for my child.
Yeah.
Okay. So assumption there.
The demon has a child.
The demon's child is the woman hovering in front of me as a piece of meat.
Sure.
And you want me to do my resurrection spell on you. No.
Not a chance.
I don't think that's it. So the dangling a piece of meat in front of me, just a really weird non sequitur, I think.
Yes. Yeah, he's just, Willow was showing off his Patagonia vest, and this guy had a nice Spice Lands lady that he can dangle. So just one-upsmanship.
Do you mind if I set her down? Like, keeping her at waist height is kind of it's taxing. I'm 4,000 years old. I'm not as young as I used to be.
And I thought it would impress you more than it appears to. I forgot you were also a wizard. And
when I said meat, I thought you'd have a follow-up. You did not. And now she's just hovering uncomfortably between us.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say meet who, and then I'd say meet Joe Black.
And then I was going to cackle and go, ha ha ha, meat is what we call all of you. But you didn't say it, and so the moment's ruined. And anyway, I'm going to set her down.
Yeah, and you look like a pig. But yeah, then he goes on to say, he talks about the princess. He calls her the youngling in the tower. So a youngling, again, that's a Star Wars connection, a very unfortunate one. He says, She was afraid. She was more babe than girl, found burned and bruised and smoking in the yard whereon her eyrie was built. She moved, she breathed, but in most ways she was as hollow within as this flesh form here. Only Anna Carey dared touch her. The others had too much fear. She would speak to none of them. She would speak to me, though. I was special to her. She called me friend. So that's him talking about Alora Danam.
Right.
Who, again, is she his child? Has he become attached to her? I also don't think so. Just based on looking for fanfic later, I believe that they are separate entities.
So, but he's saying right here that he's like a Frankenstein's monster version of a floor demon. Like only she would call me friend.
Oh yeah, he's misunderstood. Yeah,
yeah. And so he wants him to save her, but isn't that his thing already? Isn't that what he's doing?
Yeah, I guess he wants Thorn to be nice to the princess, which is what he set out to do. I guess he just has to keep going up there with room service carts until it eventually works out, like in that Tom Cruise movie where he keeps dying. Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, it put me in mind as well of Firestarter, where the character has to keep he's actually working with the CIA or something to turn her into a weapon, but she thinks he's the janitor, and so he finally, she doesn't torch him, but eventually he weasels his way into her affections and etc. But
well, maybe they're going to do Willow and Floor Demon team up to do like a Pygmalion type of thing where they turn her into a proper lady.
Why, you've even fixed her pig nose, sir.
Yeah, Pygmalion. Boom.
Wow, the connections. But so is Willow then at this point going, oh boy, the demons, what are you going to ask me to do? Murder my own wife and bring her beating heart to him here? And it's like, I want you to rescue the princess from the tower. And he's going, you stupid idiot. I was doing that anyway.
Pretty standard hero stuff, actually.
That seems to me like what's happening, but I might be deeply confused right now.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like the demon so far is been like one of the few characters he can trust. We'll see if that bears out or not. But I mean, we still are not halfway through this, and we still have not met Shando or Corey. So I guess we're going to see what happens.
Oh, but there's more confusion before this chapter ends. I'm sad to say, at least for me.
Sure.
Because then we get she made a garden. And even the night herons couldn't befoul it. I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I don't know how that figures into satisfying the demon's request, whatever the demon's request was, just like save this girl. Okay, so I'm confused, but let's bring some clarity. Faintest of gleams on the floor caught his eye. A quick bend and reach brought Anna Carey's hair clip to his hand. Mm-hmm. Reflexively, he reached back for his own. I know when I see a hair clip, that's what I do. Just reach for my own. Though he could feel it was long gone, lost in the mad scramble around Alora's eyrie, or during his own seizure, he didn't know. He lightly rubbed his thumb over his oval face, his design, blah, blah, blah. Again, the twinned... Oh, you had a note on this.
Yeah, he gives him one more neg. He lightly rubbed his thumb over the oval face. It's designed chaste by an earnest hand whose ambition outleaped skill. So he's just like
takes the time to neg the
teeth are shattered. He was just the floor, but he's like, this guy sucked at making hair bands.
It's adorable that he tried, but. So a last gift on their shared birthday before the world shattered.
My God, I don't know what that means.
He's talking about Anna Carey?
Anna Carey, who did the mind meld with him before he got stabbed by the phantom knife.
And this was a gift to him on their shared birthday before the world shattered? And then says, the princess loved few things more.
Princess Anna Carey.
More than what? More than her hair clip?
More than her crappy hair clip, I guess.
But how is it he knows that from the mind meld?
I guess they mind melded, and
they know that they share a birthday?
And she has a twin brother who she hasn't seen in a long time. And so this is what causes him to accept the demon's challenge and say, if it's within my power, I'll save your child.
Okay, but what does the hair clip and Anna Carey have to do with going to save the child?
Maybe it's so crappy of a hair clip that he's like, I have nothing left to live for, so I will do this suicide mission for you, demon.
That's what finally turned
pushes
it
him
for
over.
Him.
Yeah.
In a world that can make this kind of Chinese garbage hair clip, what the hell do I? Yeah.
Oh man, so much confusion. The most confusion we've ever had in one of these sections, I think.
It is deeply confusing and deeply difficult to read. He's trying to be clever with his prose, I think, but it's impenetrable and it just irritates. Yeah. Whew. I'm glad to be done with it, but at least there's a thick chunk of it left.
Yeah, there is. There's over 220 more pages. But, I mean, it seems like we've been having this discussion. We're on the same page, but it remains to be seen if the listeners out there are on the same page or if they are thinking that we're just a bunch of curmudgeons. So why don't we do some emails?
All right. What do people think?
Well, people are on the same page as us.
Okay.
I get this one from Carrie. I've been wrong for decades. Guy Montag was a hero led astray by that harlot shill Clarice. Books should be burned.
Wow.
I think that's Fahrenheit 451.
Yes.
So yeah, that's good. Mike T says, you asked, here they are. I guess his thoughts. I hate this book. I'm taken aback by how much I hate this book. It's the first book we've done where I'm perfectly cool with just giving up. If you guys want to throw in the towel, I will not object. So yeah, that's. I'm not going to throw it in. I need to see this out, but good to see that is we have the permission if we want to.
Don't think that did not occur to me. I know it's an unprecedented move.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's the coward's way out. I think we got to see it through, but I don't know. Check with me next episode.
We got this one. This is from David. He says, I'm behind on 372 pages, so you've probably already been flooded with emails about this. But I just wanted to point out that an animal that transmits a toxin through its bite is not poisonous. It is venomous. This is regarding the death dogs. A poison is something that is swallowed, absorbed through the skin, or inhaled. A toxin that is introduced through a bite or sting would be venom. So when Clucas waffles back and forth between whether or not death dogs are poisonous, he's not even really using the appropriate term.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
it's good that something is wrong on multiple levels. We get this one from Elizabeth. She says, first off, two things. I haven't watched Willow in a long time, so my memory for details about death dogs is non-existent. Two, I have no time to read the books, and I haven't listened to the most recent episode, so I hope you will forgive me if this has come up already. It has not. I wonder if the inspiration for the death dog's deadly but not poisonous bite comes from Komodo dragons.
Oh, that did come up.
Oh, did?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I brought that up, I think, when you were trying to decide between
suss this out?
poison or venom, yeah.
Okay, well, she says it was thought their Komodo dragons' bites were deadly because of the types of bacteria found in their mouths. Within the last decade, that's been debunked. Big surprise, Komodo dragons are actually venomous.
Oh, good, because I said that with confidence on air.
Okay.
And then, so I'm glad she fact-checked me there.
Nice. This one comes from Copeland. He gave us some more options. If you like these better than Clucas, please weigh in. Luke Claremont, Lucas Mont, Claire de Luc, Lose Clues with your host, old Claire Knucklehead. X-Force, already taken. We made franchises for Disney. Jack Tono Psylocke, The Incompatible Pros Bros. Ernest Klein wishes he was these guys. So, yeah, good.
Thank you.
Good catchy names there. We get this one from Jenny. This is a question for you. I was wondering if this book has inspired Mike to write new material for Edward the Less. It was a very funny fantasy parody. I would love him to continue and finish.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I hadn't thought of that in years, but yeah, I'll revisit that.
Did he ever become a floor in that saga?
Did not become a floor.
And then our last email. This is just from Jesse. Subject line: Shadow Moon. Entirety of email body. It's bad. So
yeah, that's good. I was wondering, are there any dissenting voices? Like I said, any bar has a regular. Any book has got to have a defender who's like, no, you guys don't understand. I'm waiting for that.
I think some people were like, this section wasn't as bad as the previous section. I think they said that just because some stuff happened.
They were damning it with faint praise. Okay.
Yeah.
That's different from a full-throated defense of you don't understand its genius.
Yes. But yeah, so far I don't think anyone has been curmudgeonly. And boy, I would like to, maybe we're going to get like, oh no, by book 2, that's when it really starts to, you have to appreciate it in the trilogy as a whole.
Right. Remember when we did it's an unaired episode, and I think somehow I destroyed it in a computer crash or something, when we did an episode with the guy who defended Ernest Cline on a podcast.
Yeah.
And then we got him on the phone, and he was a very nice guy, so there was nothing contentious, but nice guys sort of backing down don't make for good radio.
No.
He was like, well, I'm not saying that it's good.
No, it made me feel so bad.
Yeah.
Where he was like, it's just like, I put my like 2-year-old, she finally goes to bed, and it's been a hard day of work, and I can just sort of like go out to my like garage and read this, and like it's like, oh God.
We were hoping to get into a shouting match with the guy, really have some exciting radio, morning DJ stuff or something.
Yeah.
No, it was just a pleasant discussion with this great guy.
So that is lost. We don't have that.
No, I might have. I don't know. There might be a way to reconstruct it. It could be somewhere, but
okay,
it requires going to backups and stuff.
Nobody missed much. We looked bad, so that's the main. Well, speaking of bad and dumb, let's read some dumb sentences.
A sentence begins with a capital letter. A capital letter is a letter that's big. A capital letter is not a small letter. A capital letter is big, big, big. A sentence
ends with period or an exclamation
or a question
mark. All right.
I hope that guy comes to Burlington, because I would go to that concert and yell out for that song.
Oh, for sure. And that song, I think that song itself goes on for like 4.5 minutes or something, which is longer than I would think a little dumb sentence song would go.
Yeah, it's like when you realize, the Star Spangled Banner and Jingle Bells all have like 3rd and 4th verses that no one has ever heard.
Right. They're like, bye, Miss American Pie, and you never knew it.
Yeah, or like I saw like an alt angle of the Tiananmen Square tank guy picture the other day, which is just like, oh, right, of course there's probably more pictures of this.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he just... Anyway, so yeah, that Pulitzer Prize-winning photo was similar to the sentence song on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, these are the dumb sentences of the week. All right, our first sentence came from Lucas. I don't remember what the context for this was, but it was, or is this a case of holding friends close but enemies closer? He just says, does this mean the Godfather 2 exists in the Willowverse?
Oh.
Yeah. He says George Lucas is friends with Francis Ford Coppola and did some uncredited editing for the first Godfather movie, so you'd think he'd know where this quote came from.
Man, it goes deep.
Yeah. Maybe it does just, maybe it exists. Hopefully Godfather 3 does not exist. This is from Janelle. There was no sense of movement. It was as if some particle of him was aware of every simultaneous moment within the confines of the castle, allowing him the ability, M- through the demon M- to switch from one to the other as though he was exchanging painted illuminations in a viewer. So she's frustrated because he has been in the dungeon twice. He returned to the dungeon to then explore other parts of the castle. So it is I was frustrated because he turned into a floor. But to each her own.
Oh man. Yeah.
This
the demon made him go and lock himself up so he could turn himself into a floor, and then it doesn't pay off. But
this one's from Emily. She says, he pitched himself forward, clawing his way up his own legs. She just said, not possible. What is going on? And yeah, I'm not sure. That mental image is a difficult one to make heads or tails of.
Hey, well, when you go to lean against a wall and it's not there anymore, you got to do some weird things. So.
Tom submitted, the brownie's shrug was a most eloquent reply. And so he submitted that as a physical challenge. How do you do an eloquent shrug? Was the one-shouldered shrugging in Tech War eloquent?
Ooh, yeah.
This one comes from Harris. This is regarding the pig girl. She had a good arm, matching strength with surprisingly precise accuracy, and he couldn't help the thought that she showed the skill of long practice, and realized at the same time that this explained the comparative absence of the servants he'd seen when he first emerged from the lift. Harris writes, unnecessarily long as that sentence is, which is redundant to say for most of the book, my focus was on the she had a good arm segment, because when a bipolar tween is having a mental breakdown, that should be the first thing that comes into your mind, her pitching acumen.
We got to get a gun on that kid. I don't know.
This one's from Andrew. This is the last one. He was so enwrapped by the sights and sounds and smells of the kitchen, he quite forgot that he was an intruder. But, I mean, that one makes a bit more of a sense when you've seen a kitchen just full of sights and sounds that are so unique in a kitchen that you've never seen before. It's easy to forget that you are not supposed to be there.
Yeah, dazzled by the stove, he could, you get lost.
And cold water. Let's see what I have. DSOTW.
Are you doing a search on your hard drive? Is that what we're reduced to now?
Yes. Okay. Here's my first one. It was, the brownie shook his head and munched on a radish, pausing after the first bite to add a sprinkle of salt.
The radish was, to him, 478 pounds. The salt shaker was beyond even his capacity to move with a dump truck.
Right. Each individual grain of salt was a boulder. That is my other one was, he was as much the demon now as he was an eagle when insight allowed him to ride his soul with Anil's. It just has a hodgepodge of dumbassery in that one sentence. You know, the eagles, are they going to show back up again? I assume so, but...
Well, they're going to use him for fishing practice, for sure. Because of his inability to swim when he's a floor.
A lame frog. I mean, look at him. Anyway, what do you have any?
Well, I have, these all tend to be, like you say, just the mush of words rather than super, like big punchline dumb. But so here's a mass of words that will irritate you. And technically it's 2 sentences, but the horror, of course, the awful joy, let me do it with commas. The horror, comma, of course, comma, the awful joy, comma, was the realization that, comma, given a second chance, M dash, even with all he knew, M dash, he'd make the same choice. Because happy as he thought he was, comma, he'd still been only a ghost of a man.
Good Lord.
That's book hurling stuff right there.
Yeah, throw a handful of punctuation at a page and see what sticks.
Yeah, and when you throw that book, someone's going to go, that guy's got a good arm.
Those are our dumb sentences. Those are our emails. That was our episode. Thanks again to everyone on Patreon at patreon.com/372 pages. Go kick in so we can get 500 people. For next time, we're going to read, it's through chapter 8. That's another 50, and it's 51 pages this time. So I know. I don't know what to do, but this will put us
getting longer.
It'll put us to the halfway mark. Read through chapter 8 and send us all your fan fiction, dumb sentences, emails, floor pictures of Willow as a floor. I would love to see one of those.
Oh, we'll get through this, people. We'll get through this. Thank you. This is 372 pages. We'll never get back. So long.